Hanlon?
I don't know if I can make a motion on this, but, you know, we have two public hearings tonight, and I mean, both the same thing. Can we do them together? Can we ask the clerk?
That's what I was going to ask for someone to take them collectively, if you could.
Oh, if we can, I'll make that in a motion then.
We have a second, please? Motion made to take items 1 and 2 collectively. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed. What this means, if you're speaking on something on 1, you can also speak on 2 at the same time.
At the same time.
That's all.
Okay. The motion was to take them collectively. I'm going to read both items 1 and 2. They are both public hearings.
We gotta make a motion to open this, right? Or we just did?
I got to, yep. Motion was to take both collectively. They are both public hearings offered by Michael Marchese as president. 1 is the Everett City Council, in accordance with Section 6-4 of the City Charter, shall conduct a public hearing to allow the public to speak on the proposed City of Everett's fiscal year 2024 proposed budget appropriations, including the general fund budget, the water sewer enterprise fund budget, and the ECTV enterprise fund budget. 2, the Everett City Council, in accordance with Section 6-5B of the City Charter, shall conduct a public hearing to allow the public to speak on the City of Everett's fiscal year 2024 proposed capital improvement plans, including the General Fund Capital Improvement Plan and the Water and Sewer Enterprise Fund Capital Improvement Plan.
Motion to open public hearing?
Second?
Motion made second to open public hearing. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed.
And the public hearings are open for items 1 and 2 collectively. So the speakers that I'll call forward may speak on one or both of the budgets. Okay. Our first speaker is Peggy Serino.
All right. I have a lot of questions about this budget. The 2023 budget and the 2024 budget, there's a difference of approximately 9%. And I don't understand why it's not a level funded budget, simply because of all the tax increases and what all the people in the city are going through. Now, there's the money that we are borrowing. Now, compared to 2023, we're going to borrow approximately 55% more money. Why? Once again, I think everything should be level funded. I don't think it should not be 1 penny more. And right now, there is a Zoom meeting going on, and it's all about Encore. And did they own this property, and did Monsanto own that property? Who owned the property? Well, Monsanto didn't own the property, so Encore doesn't own the property. But this is all to prevent the reconsideration of the host agreement so that the city of Everett and the taxpayers can get something out of it. If you go from east to west or north to south in this country, in a city or a town has a casino in it, their taxes are going down. Our taxes are going up. Why? There's all kinds of whys. Now in this budget, Old Everett High School on Broadway, it was a tear down when we built the new high school. We put a new boiler in it last year. Why? There's $8 million in the budget for it. Why? Why are we wasting money? The high school, the old high school, I personally think should be elderly housing. It should be torn down. But we've got money in there for the tin can trailers to put our kids in. And in order to put those in, you are going to have to redesign the brand new buildings that we built and spent all that money on. So, Pope John sits there. Our kids should be going to school at Pope John this September. Once again, why? Once again, we have parks, we have streets, put on a list every year that never get done. Why? I have been told, and if after the meeting someone knows that I'm wrong, I'd like to know, that this money, if it's not spent, goes back into the general fund. And then the guy in the corner office gets to spend it any way he wants to. Why? It's unbelievable. Park streets, they never get done. We have got to be realistic. What the people can afford. You know what it's like to go to the grocery store. You know, you're getting your house insurance and your car insurance bills, they're all going up. And there's nothing that's going down. And yet taxes and everything go up, and the people, you expect them to pay more and more. They don't have it to give you. They just don't have it. And there's two things that I would like to bring up. First of all, I think the council, money well spent, I think you should have your own lawyer. The school committee has their own lawyer. Guy in the corner office, God bless him, he has lawyers coming out of his eyeballs. I think the council needs a lawyer. And instead of requesting or referring things to the guy in the corner office, I think you should request that he appear in person when you have questions to get answers. Because there are things that you put on the calendar year after year, month to month, and you never get an answer. And I didn't see anything for Glendale Towers on the budget. If there is, please correct me. I mean, that was a mess last August. The summer months are coming. Those people were living in 95 degrees. The air conditioner wasn't working. They had all kinds of problems. And nothing's in the budget that I could see that's there. I'd like to thank you for your attention. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm sorry. The next speaker is Tony Raymond.
Good evening, councilors and Mr. President. I'm reading tonight, first and foremost, a speech from my friend Lillian Gorham, who could not attend this meeting. As a very concerned taxpayer, I am of the strong opinion this bloated budget needs severe cutting. Legal fees. I think we have all seen the video, text messages, and memes posted online. How many tax dollars are funding that group of lawyers? So unnecessary and costly to the taxpayers that had nothing to do with it. How can the budget be cut to help relieve real estate taxes for the hardworking or Everett seniors on a fixed income? When one councilor stated at one point, $40,000 is a drop in the bucket. Yes, it was recorded if anyone wants to research the prior meeting. $40,000 is a huge pile of money for many living here in Everett. My real estate taxes went up close to $1,000 last year. I had to make cuts in my budget. I'm just an ordinary citizen. So if I could make some cuts to an already frugal budget, so can each of you on this council. I said goodbye to Comcast. Their last increase was the final straw. New company, lots cheaper. Never knew I could say goodbye to National Grid, but found out I could. Much cheaper company, same service. So councilors, what can each of you do to cut the bloat? Remember, this is a voting year for all of you. We will be watching and taking notes. A few ordinary, plain Jane, plain Joe citizens can probably find a way to cut expenses for our city. Thank you. So that was from Lillian Gorham. I believe we have extra time this evening. So having more time, I'll now add my own thoughts. You know, someone recently yelled out to me in the city, "Hey, Tony, I bet you're the most hated guy in the city right now, huh?" I replied, well, if exposing the city for corruption and bad behavior, I'm probably most loved by more than half of the city, okay? Remember that. Believe me, more than half of the city loves us for what we're doing. I would like all of you to reflect on the true meaning of the weekend that just passed, Memorial Day weekend. It remembers and also celebrates the fact that many, many died to win our freedom. Freedom of speech falls under that umbrella. We have proven and shared via FIOA, Freedom of Information Act, recovered videos, documents, purchase orders, invoices. We have proven theft, corruption, and bad behavior, all three. The city should be hanging its head in shame that they would come after the very people that come up here and speak out against what we believe is a dishonest city government. That's our right. We can. We know all the players are protected, all right? Someday you will all have to answer to somebody. But to come after the residents with subpoenas and lawyers is despicable, okay? Remember, nobody stays on top forever. We'll keep coming up here. We will have all of our issues addressed, period. God help us in this new America that's protecting the evil, deceiving government. That goes for city government, too. Don't get it. All right, now I'm gonna add some bullet points. Where's the revenue? New residential buildings will add revenue, but in how many years and at what cost? The city is still 3.5 square miles. Adding the new luxury apartments aren't providing any affordable housing for families. I don't get it. We've been saying the same thing for years. We even tried to do the moratorium. You just sliced it. You didn't even try to bargain with us and say, all right, never mind a 5-year moratorium. Let's do a 2-year moratorium. Let the city catch up and breathe a little. You're trying to turn Everett into Boston. You're trying to bring the Silver Line here. Enough. Man, did I miss reading any investment from them in the water and sewer? The sewage, culverts, open space, parks, schools, fire, police, EMTs? What investments have any of these developers even made? A parking garage, parking in general? No, nothing. You understand? Nothing. So demands on infrastructure and services fall on the residential and small businesses. Are we really having the school department rent a building for $3 million a year? What kind of scam is this? To address the overcrowding? Not for 1 year, but for several years. Didn't the city and council learn anything from giving away the Devon School for $950,000? Why are we paying $1 million a year to rent it? So we went from gold standard now to trailers. All right, no matter what you call them, they are trailers. Are you going to approve $8 million for the old high school that everyone here knows is a tear down, except for the mayor, apparently? How much time I got left?
45 seconds.
Yeah, if you can just work on wrapping it up.
Even the neighborhood developers last year sent a letter to the city saying Everett needed a school. Why not negotiate with the mayor and say this is the best option? Actually, the only realistic option. We need a middle school, which Pope John will provide. If we ever get a new high school, the middle school can be relocated to the high school at Elm, and Pope John can be used to replace the city leasing the Devon schools. This isn't rocket science. The current owner can hold the city hostage and increase the leasing to whatever, and we are stuck. Is this any way to run a city? To do anything else defies logic and just supports the DOJ case against the city as a racist, discriminating, and retaliation organization, not only against the superintendent, but the children in Everett school system who happen to be 80% children of color. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Anthony.
Our next speaker is John McDonald.
Good evening. I'm just here to say something about the upcoming budget. From what I see in the budget proposal for 2024, the departmental budgets are not based on what departments spend, but on some inflated amount that has little to do with the actual expenses of the department. Everett taxpayers seem to be paying a lot more than they need to. I totaled up the department expenses, the amount budgeted for these departments for 2022, 2023, and 2024. I excluded any department that was not in existence for those 3 years. In 2022, the cumulative department expenses were $57 million. However, for 2022, the mayor recommended a budget of $69 million. The council approved it. The taxpayers at Everett paid over $12 million more than what was needed to run these departments. I ask you why? Why are we paying $12 million more to run these departments? No answers. I've never heard one. Currently, the 2024 budget recommends for these same departments over $75 million. The taxpayers of Everett will be paying $18 million more, $18 million in 1 year more than they needed to run these departments in 2022. I couldn't use the 2023 number because that's not, the year's not over. I had to go by, but it'll come out to be pretty close to $18 million. So I ask you, why are we paying $18 million more this year for the same departments? Really, what's going on? Are we increasing the departments that much? No. Where is this money going? These huge increases are way beyond inflation. These aren't inflationary increases. There is no explanation in the budget why these numbers are so grossly inflated, yet every year, over $10 million is sucked out of the taxpayers under the pretense of running these departments. Every year, you're asking taxpayers for over $10 million that you don't need at all. This appears to be very deceitful policy. Where are the tax dollars going if they are not needed for those departments? I'm told they go to free cash. Well, you may call it free cash, but to the homeowners and taxpayers of Everett, it's their hard-earned money. As elected officials, you should be governing for the well-being of your constituents, not for their demise. Thank you.
Okay, our next speaker on the list is Kittredge.
Hello, Council. I think I'm on here. So to begin with, I think I would like to talk about things that are presently in capital projects. One that I found sort of confusing is the $1 million that's earmarked for the Glenwood Cemetery. It's called Glendale in the document, but I think it's Glenwood they're referring to. There was a Memorial Day service there yesterday. The state representative, people who were there commented on how beautiful the cemetery was, how the gazebo was beautiful. Like, walking into that cemetery, it's one of like the prettiest, most quiet, tree-filled spots in the whole city. $1 million for projects in that space seems like a lot of money to earmark when there are other parks or green spaces that money could be used to beautify. The Mystic River Association did a study about the heat in our city and the parts that are getting very hot on hot days. Glenwood Cemetery is one of the coolest places in the entire city, and so are the places nearby. And that's because it's a place that's filled with trees and greenery. I think we should be trying to replicate that in other places, but I don't believe that $1 million is needed to improve it this year. I would also like to talk about $8 million for the old high school. I understand that there are some programs that are run out of there, and the community has, a gym that they can go to there. I think that's great, but $8 million on a building that is pretty close to a tear down also seems like a lot of money to be spending when there are other ways we could be spending those funds. In schools in general, there was a school survey conducted by the state that was presented at a school committee meeting. More than half of middle school students in Everett said they felt unsafe after they arrived at school, in spite of almost 90% saying they felt supported at home. So this is, students who are leaving homes where they feel safe, coming to school and feeling unsafe. I think a lot of that can probably be attributed to overcrowding. I think all of us recognize that students need more space, but we've known that since 2017. So nothing has changed since then. And now we're proposing $14 million be spent on modular buildings, which are temporary. It isn't clear where they're even going to go and how that's going to impact the current state of the schools. And, where are we going to put kids after that? So, when we have a building in Pope John that is sitting there that needs some improvements, but that could be a permanent piece of infrastructure for the children in the city and for families in this city, that doesn't make any sense to me. I would love to see something in the capital projects budget about solar programs, utility assistance, maybe assistance for seniors. I was knocking doors at Glendale Towers just yesterday. As a matter of fact, it is really hot on those top floors. And that's outside of the apartments. Almost every person I spoke to in that building said they had issues with it being too hot in the summer and sometimes too cold in the winter. I know it's a public housing and that involves the state, but there are programs that could be put in place to help those people cool their apartments. We need to get creative with the way that we're using our funds. And finally, it's unclear how this budget is going to impact homeowners, people who are seeing increasing property taxes. We know that water cost is going to increase in the city. We saw those numbers. So a lot of those things that are being passed on, especially to folks on, fixed budgets and fixed incomes, it creates a real big impact. So before we're, approving $1 million for a cemetery beautification project, maybe let's think about the folks who are really heavily impacted by things like increasing taxes. Thank you all very much.
Juan Ramos.
Good evening, council members, and thank you for this opportunity to speak, first of all. $8 million for a school that was set to be a teardown is absurd, because one, that school, there's maybe 200 kids in there, maybe. I think the number is actually less than that. 2, the gym, I know barely anyone that uses it. 3, the Elliott Family Resource Center, yeah, great program, but how are students benefiting from that? Because all the programs they run are during the day. Elliott gets state funding, they can help cover the cost of running that building. Do they help? How much are they helping? What effort are they putting forth for using our building? For $14 million for modulars, you can just get tin cans at any shipping yard for way cheaper. They'll sell them to you because they have so many. It's honestly the same thing because that's what you're trying to put in. Second, there's no space for them. Where are you going to put them? Everett is so densely populated that you're going to be ending up taking parking and sidewalk space. So most of these buildings aren't retrofitted for them anyway. And third of all, why are we even considering this when you could put $7 million into Pope John and just renovate that and call it a day? It's not that. It's basic knowledge, common sense. why are we allowing people to just waste money for no reason? Thank you.
Our next speaker is Paula Sturity.
Good evening. I'd like to start with some comments from a neighbor who couldn't be here tonight. Her comments first. Move the pre-K, close the wellness center, tear down the old high school, and build senior and veteran housing for Everett residents. Next, in the proposed budget, not all departments included the 2022 actual expenditures. Make it a requirement that all departments provide complete spending for at least 2 prior years to show trends. Next, include details of alleged contracts like alarm devices with proposed budget packages as the City Council does with agendas. Please include the vendor name, the contract for the amount proposed that year, and the contract expiration date. Next, reduce or eliminate above-grade differential payments whenever possible unless part of a union agreement. Next, eliminate stipends for any board or commission that has failed to file an annual report for at least 2 years and stop adding stipends. Next, require an addendum to be included to the proposed budget with an up-to-date list of all city vehicles and equipment. But last but not least, do the budget on the new software that was purchased in 2020. Thank you, now, Mike. The proposed budget, along with the additional funds to be borrowed, brings the total budget for 2024 close to $320 million. In my opinion, as a taxpayer and someone who worked in public companies for almost 40 years, anyone proposing a budget with increases with not one mention of cuts, freezes, efficiencies, reductions, or a hint on addressing the revenue shortfall is being totally irresponsible and highlights the lack of accountability and mismanagement of our city revenue by the mayor and his administration. Some of you work at public companies. When your companies have a shortfall in revenue, do they just say, try harder next year? Or instruct you or your managers to cut or hold spending down until revenues tick up? I have worked through boom times and downtimes, and good management takes responsibility and makes tough decisions. Here, apparently, you just ignore reality and spend, spend, and spend. I do ask, whatever budget number is approved, instead of giving a percentage, can you tell us what the expected tax increase will be? Plus, can you and the administration commit and promise not to increase taxes later in 2024 and not to use free cash to fill any revenue gaps? Some of my observations, and I may be off, in the past couple of years, this council has approved an ambulance without having a clue of the complexity of launching a service and running one or its total cost. Now we have a stipend increase of $700,000. The DOJ, we spent $850,000 this past year, and we're allocating another $250,000 next year. When does it stop? What's it for? Can anyone tell me what it's being paid, what's being paid for? Who? What? Anything? No? Okay. Then you have the meters that never worked. The person who selected them, are they still here? Are they getting a raise? Not only did we waste money on purchasing meters that never worked, add on the wasted money in batteries we purchased from Mr. Latanzi's store, plus the lost parking revenues since they were installed. What is really strange, no one seems to be upset at all the lost revenue for the parking. My suggestion is to do away with all the meters, make 2-hour parking on all the major streets and parking lots. Let's see if parking enforcement can bring in some revenue. I think Everett must be the only city that can't make money on parking. Then my favorite budget item, the Wellness Center, another venture that was supposed to pay for itself. Has it? No. Is it currently? No. Every year, Mr. Demas and his administration tells the City Council it is or it's ramping up to pay its costs. Not true based on what I got for membership payments. The Wellness Center's revenue or memberships are nowhere near even covering the expense of the $395,000 contract to the outsourced vendor. To add insult to injury, We, the taxpayers, are on the hook for the cost to lease and maintain the equipment. The real kicker is the cost of the utilities alone. The average cost just for the utilities that run the old high school and the wellness center runs about $27,000 a month. Granted, there's a preschool there, but the bulk of this cost is from the wellness center. Then add on to that the cost of the water and sewage, throw in the upgrades and the maintenance for the buildings, plus she happens to be running her business at no cost to her. I hope you see why I harp on this, because I just think it's a waste. If you are serious about cutting waste, start here. The wellness center is a nice to have, but the city can't afford nice to have. We need to focus on essentials like a decent school for kids to go to school, not stack them up in trailers. How can you justify $14 million in trailers, $3 million to rent space for the school department, and then allocate $8 million for a condemned building? The high school was told that it was condemned in 2008, and things haven't gotten any better. During one of the city council or school committee meetings, the mayor offered the use of the city hall, as he said it was underutilized. Let's move the pre-K, shut down the wellness center, tear down the school, and ready the space for the new high school once the state approves the city's application. Then we have the water and sewage and a bunch of water projects. Last year, we approved $5 million from ARPA money for the ferry project. Did any of you have any idea what the total cost is? Because another $10 million is on the budget. Again, approving costs and projects without knowing the total costs. Shouldn't the big developers be footing the bill for any of the upgrades to the infrastructure? I ask because year over year during the budget meeting, Mr. Demas has said that water and sewage fees pays for the maintenance and upgrades. So the only thing I see changing are the huge developments. So maybe instead of investing in the mayor's campaign and defense funds, the developers and the contractors can invest in the city's infrastructure.
Could you start to finish up?
Just one more. If you want to change the paper, if you want to change the allocation of the newspaper, and this is your moment. If you want to have the papers distributed among the 3 newspapers and require that any newspaper that we're going to use allow free online access, because I guarantee you the Advocate is not producing 50,000, 7,000, or 2,000 papers, or if they have, they won't tell me. Thank you.
Thank you. That was the last speaker. Motion to close.
Second.
Motion made second to close public participation hearing. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Clerk?
Motion to open public participation? Is public participation?
Not on this.
No, but there's the next one.
Where is it?
That's
was on the
public
other
hearing.
Yeah, wait, you still gotta, you gotta take
Oh,
action.
No.
Communications in place on file for items 1 and 2. Go ahead.
motion to accept communications and place them on file for 1 and 2?
Second.
Motion made to collect, what was that again? To accept the communication from 1 and 2 and put them on file. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Yes, just so everyone knows, the public hearing was this evening on June 12th. It will be the vote up or down on the actual budget. This gave the council the few weeks that the residents had requested for them to absorb what you had said. Next will be item number 3. Oh, I'm sorry. Next would be public participation. I didn't have any sign-ins for that. I think everybody was
Motion to open
speaking.
public participation?
Yeah.
Second.
Motion made and second to open public participation. All in favor? I oppose.
Mr. President, if there's no sign-in sheet, they could just come up on their own and speak whatever they want.
So there was no one signed in on the public participation. You are allowed to,
So if somebody wants to come up, they can come
that
up
would
right
be
now.
at the, yes,
Speak about anything?
correct. Anything pretty much on the agenda would be more preferable. When it comes to special meetings, it's whatever's on the agenda
Thank
only.
you.
This would be 2 minutes. Yes.
This will be 2 minutes, public participation.
All right, getting used to this. All right, hi, I'm Saskia Basquiat. I just wanted to bring some awareness as I was going over the budget, and I honestly haven't gone through all of it. But there were some discrepancies in terms of, I was kind of looking at the connection between Encore Casino and the budget and the host community agreement. And for those of you that may not know what a host community agreement is, it's kind of like the permission that developers have to get in order to start a business in the area. And so, and it tells you the terms of that, right? What are they going to agree on financial budgets or whatever? A lot of times when things like casinos, dispensaries, liquor stores come in, it's a percentage of their revenue. Through the host community agreement that I could find, I don't know if there's an updated one, but the one that I could find, the numbers are not making sense. The numbers are not making sense. The casino generated over $730 million in 2022, and Everett only benefited about $27 million of that. That's less than, that's like 3%. It said since the casino opened, it should have been going up 2.5 with a lot of different other payments coming in for several different things. I didn't go like extensively, but the numbers didn't make sense. And so I just want to bring that awareness to residents, to the council. If there is an updated community host agreement, I would love to see that. But from what it looks like, the host community agreement, there should be a lot more money coming into Everett that's being generated from the casino if it's making almost $1 billion. And we're not seeing that, and we're not benefiting from that, even though the casino has, I feel like, has greatly impacted the culture of Everett. And so that's all I really wanted to say.
Yeah, that's great. Do we have anyone else?
Motion to.
Second.
Motion made and second to close public participation. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Public participation is closed. Clerk, read item 3.
Item number 3 is is an order offered by Councilor Michael Marchese as president. An order recommending the approval of the fiscal year 2024 General Fund Capital Improvement Plan as submitted by His Honor the Mayor in the amount of $65,086,800. Just